Hello everyone, I am the world's highest IQ record holder, Hoon Kim. Why is Jesus Christ God? I have simple, logical, and scientific answer.
For those of you that aren't aware, this is young Hoon, who is the holder of the highest IQ in the world at 276. That's higher than Apus's IQ.
To be quite honest, my parents are first cousins. No worries, I'm quite a stable genius.
So let's check out the high IQ arguments that he's going to be providing, and do you think it's going to be higher than the slop that we usually come across here on social media?
You asked me excellent question.
First, Jesus Christ clearly said he was God. He forgave sins, accepted worship, and said, I and the Father are one.
What Jesus is referring to here is that he and the Father are one in purpose, not that he and the Father are literally one and the same. Take this verse, for example, where Jesus says that he and the disciples are one. What does that mean? That we have 15 persons in the Godhead now, including Judas? As for the claim that Jesus was worshipped, for some reason young Hoon seems to be hesitant about sharing those verses. Maybe there's some sort of an issue with etymology. Maybe there are some attributions that he is uncertain about. Well, this is the first video on Christianity that young Hoon has produced, and not a single reference to be seen. The forgiveness of sins according to Jesus in the Gospel of John isn't something that only God can do, but even his disciples, the disciples of Jesus, apparently can do. They can apparently forgive sins. By the way, let's grant that everything that he is saying here is actually said by Jesus. None of this is sufficient to prove that Jesus is God. If young Hoon himself said that he was God, if he made that claim, and if he claimed that he forgave sins, and if he saw people worshiping him and he allowed them to, none of that would be sufficient as proof that young Hoon is God.
And said, I and the Father are one. If this is not true, he would be a liar or insane. But his teachings, actions, and influence on history prove otherwise.
What actions, what teachings, what influences? This is an ambiguous claim that cannot be assessed if one is not specific. Young Hoon, by the way, that's a bad thing. That's not a good thing. If you want your claims to be accepted, they need to be assessed. It's only after they're assessed we can determine whether they're true or false.
Second, Jesus rose from the dead. This is not just a belief, it is supported by historical evidence. The tomb was empty, and many people claimed to see him alive.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So how many of these people actually saw him come back to life? At the end of the day, you only have 2 eyewitnesses. Well, that's if we're being generous. I'm of course referring to Matthew and John. And by the way, in reality, those 2 authors are anonymous. Refer to my videos with Ijaz the Trini for the details, by the way. Now, young Hoon, being the holder of the highest IQ in the world, is very aware that 2 people making a claim is insufficient. So he goes on and he says, well, many people are claiming this.
And many people claimed to see him alive.
I'm just going to give you guys an analogy for those of you that are not on the same level as young Hoon. If I said that 1,000 people saw young Hoon flying, that's just one person making the claim. That's just one testimony. It's not 1,000 testimonies, because it's just me that's saying it.
Even enemies of Christianity couldn't explain.
Couldn't explain what exactly? His enemies didn't believe in the testimonies about him being raised from the dead.
His followers were willing to die because they were sure he defeated death.
Young Hoon said that his followers were willing to die for the belief that Jesus was resurrected, and this is incorrect and it cannot be proven. There's not a single example of a disciple of Christ or of a follower of Christ dying specifically because of the resurrection. Once again, young Hoon did not bring evidence for any of the claims that he brought forward. It seems as if he's afraid of some sort of pushback, which is why he didn't quote anything. With the exception of I and the Father are one, which was debunked previously.
So, using reason, history, and science, the best conclusion is this: Jesus Christ is God. Thank you.
No, thank you, young Hoon, for demonstrating to us that even the highest IQ holder in the world does not have any strong arguments for Christianity. And with that, I conclude this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.